go for a ride. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And today, we're taking a drive in the Barracuda, obviously. Anyway, in this video, I'll be reviewing the fuel injection system that's in my car. The Atomic MSD fuel injection system that I've had for almost 10 years now. And we're going to go over why I picked it, how's it worked out for me so far, as well as, you know, if you guys are thinking about getting one of these, what you should look out for. And yeah, right now I'm just taking a quick drive in the vehicle because honestly I haven't driven it in a while. I'm a believer in you have to drive your vehicles, and I have not been doing a good job of it. So let's take a quick drive and yeah, we'll go over what I really love about the system and maybe things I don't like. So number one, what I love about the system, extremely simple. Easy to use, easy to set up, and easy to understand. Perfect. It took me a weekend to set it up, and only because, honestly, I took my time with it. I wanted to do it right. I followed the steps. Yes, I read the instructions. I know. And yeah, I've had no issues with it since then, since I've set it up. Number two would be how easy it is to tune, actually. The tunability of it is a little limited for a fuel injection system. And I'll explain that more in detail when we get back to the garage. But the ability to be able to set my fuel ratios and my timing curves and all that stuff, generally speaking, while driving the vehicle is awesome. Absolutely wonderful. I love that. And it's something that I've wanted in a vehicle for the longest time. I used to mess with carburetors before, and you just can't do that, you know? So now that I can do this as I'm driving, super plus for me. That's awesome. Number three, the reliability of this thing has been outstanding. I'm going almost 10 years of having this thing, and honestly, it's worked well. It's functioned exactly how I wanted it to function, and I've only had a few small issues with it, which I'll explain a little bit later. Number four, the aesthetics of it. The fact that it kind of looks like an old school carburetor, but not really. It sort of has its own look to it, but it looks like it's right at home with an old car. And I love that. I love that about this system. I love that it had the way it looks, or the way it's gonna look under the hood. It kept that in mind, you know? And it's not intrusive, it's not in the way, the wires aren't all over the place. It's nice, I like it. Very good. Okay, so here are the things that I don't like about it. Number one, going back to the programming or the interface, it's a little limited in what it can do. Yes, I can tune air-fuel mixtures, what I want overall. I can tune when I want it to squirt a little more fuel for power. It's kind of like the term, if you know what a carburetor does, if you know how a carburetor functions, it has the same sort of tunability, you know, if you understand those terms. However, unlike a regular fuel injection system, you can't go in there and set different tables at different RPMs, not specifically. You can't, you know, tune in a knock sensor system. There's a lot that is missing from the system to make it function like a true modern fuel injection system. So there's that. You can mess with timing, but also that isn't throughout the curve. It's an overall kind of a thing. A lot like a basic timing setup that these old cars used to have. So if you understand the old basic terms and you understand how to set one of those up, how they were back then, this is exactly like that. It's almost like a digital electronic version of an old school system. It's really what it is. So it doesn't quite have that same tunability. Second, it's not necessarily as simple as they made it out to be. So when this system came out, it was made out to be super simple. You get it, you throw it in the car, and with basic understanding of fuel ratios and all these things, that you can get in and start messing with it and start working on it and stuff, and, you know, tune it. Well, not exactly. See, this system, it needed a little bit getting used to how to tune this thing and how to work this thing in order to do it right and get it where I want it to be. You know, it takes time to understand this particular system, which isn't like a laptop-based system or a carburetor. It's somewhere in the middle. It's a learning computer, so to speak, so that as you drive, it learns the way you drive and adjusts its internal tables, accordingly. Well, as you begin to adjust things manually, it'll almost reset its learning curve, and it'll have to learn again, which is something to understand and know going into one of these. However, the fifth thing that I don't like so much is that this being a technology-based product, right? So something that's new and amazing when it came out, it is bound to be obsolete. Meaning there's already a new version of this that's available on the market called the Atomic 2. Essentially the same unit, but now it's controlled by the same controller that would be used in a Holley system. Why? Because Holley has bought out MSD, which is the original manufacturer of this unit. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. I haven't tested a new one just yet, but that makes the system that I have, it renders it obsolete now. So parts for it will become harder to get now. And once the sensors start wearing out, I'm gonna have to find a way to get new sensors, fuel injectors, all these things that are gonna need to be supplied for a system that was out for about 10 years or so, but is now being phased out. So that's something to keep in mind about the system. It's been great, but like everything, it's bound to fail at some point, and you're just gonna have to repair it. Hopefully those parts are available once I have to repair it. But anyway, see you guys back at the garage. And there it is, the MSD Atomic EFI system, or as I like to call it, the electronic carburetor. The reason I say that is, this thing essentially, well, for one thing, looks exactly like a carburetor, or at least pretty close to a carburetor. Something the likes of a Demon or a Holley carburetor. That was the whole point of this system. This system is part of a line of systems that came out that are supposed to kind of give the aesthetics of old school carburetors with the advantage of EFI, right? That's the attempt. One of the companies that first started that was a company called Fast. And they do one, and now you have Phytech, which is another company that's currently doing these, and of course MSD. Now, the claim to fame for MSD was, or at least at the time that this came out, the simplicity of use, the simplicity of putting it in here, and not only that, the ease of a person that only knows carburetors, doesn't know EFI too well, to get into one of these and use them. That was kind of the point of this whole thing, as I talked about earlier. And a lot of that has to do with the way it looks, for one thing, right? There doesn't seem to be anything other than what you see in front of you. However, there are a few things that are kind of sneaked in. For example, there's a temperature sensor here that helps with this system. The actual computer is right here, which is what runs this entire system. And because it's there, in order not to overheat everything, the so-called power system, or the thing that actually provides its energy, is inside the car, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But it was actually originally meant to be displayed out here. And you can look up the pictures online, but basically it would be right there as one of your systems, and then you had another piece that was your controller, and I'll show you the controller in a second. But yeah, I mean, it was meant to look very clean, like how it looks here. This system, I do have it rigged up so that the electronic system, or sorry, the timing control functions. So I don't mess with the distributor at all. All of my timing and all of the carburetor functions, or at least the fuel metering functions, are inside. So let's go inside. So here it is. This is the unit that runs the entire thing. The brains of the operation review, or at least my interface, right? So let me show you what that looks like. So you get a nice little startup screen there, and I have it so that it goes up to this gauge setup right here, and this gives me my basic fuel, as far as fuel pressure is concerned here. It gives me my engine coolant temperature, my RPMs, up here, and my these are DTC, so it does have codes that it can give you if there's something wrong with the system. Battery and voltage, and my AFR, or air fuel ratio. So it's nice little general information you would need to know for the system to function correctly. But when you get one of these, you actually get a, let me see if I can get it one-handed here. Let's see here. There we go. But originally what you would get is this setup here. Once you start everything up, you get this. And now you get your atomic dash, which gives you all your information. Your atomic gauges, which is what you saw earlier. The initial setup, this is where you go into enter your engine displacement, how many cylinders this engine is, camshaft type, so all your basic information about the engine, so that it knows what to start out with, because it has presets that it'll work with. And then of course, once you're done with all that, you get your advanced. Now advanced is really cool because this is where you do all your tuning. So your fans, when they come on, your air fuel targets, so you can set up how much or what the air fuel ratios you want them to be. Your timing, this is where you control the timing information. Your pump squirt. So now guys that know carburetors will know what this means. This refers to when you hit the accelerator on a carburetor, it squirts a little bit of fuel to compensate for the amount of air that's going to come in. That's what this is referring to. And so you can start telling by this that it's trying to appeal to people who are used to carburetors, i.e. the terminology being used. Power valve enrichment, that's a lot what a Holly would use to, it's a little like a hexagonal piece that goes inside the metering block, and it actually allows for mid-level driving, or off idle kind of driving, where if you're say you're already going at speed and you hit it, this would enrich in that fuel mixture to get a little bit more power out of the engine. It doesn't stall on you when you're accelerating, right? And then if you're running nitrous, yes, this does have a nitrous thing, you can actually run that. And now the really cool part is if I go to timing, or timing control, so if I go into timing, you'll notice it has your advances, your different curves, what RPM you want the total advanced timing would go. If you guys want an entire breakdown of how this whole thing works, let me know, and I'll in the comments below, and I'll go over it a little bit more. But this is just kind of an overview of what this thing gave you. Vacuum advanced, which was old school terminology for these old cars. See here, and then of course boost retard for cars that are running a blower or a turbocharger or what have you. This kind of sets up your timing for that. So there are those, but that's it. That's literally about as much as you get out of this thing. You got your diagnostics, display setup, so you can change the lighting, backlight, all that good stuff when it times out, all that. This is just for the display. But again, I have it set up to where it gives me the atomic gauges, and I can see this. So that when I turn it on, it runs how it's supposed to, and that's it. Literally, this is it. This is your communication with the computer. And this is where I say it's cool in that it's really simple to use and to mess with, but it's limited. Those are the settings I can mess with, and that's it. I can't go into the fuel and set different tables for the RPM. I can't go and edit this and say, okay, at this RPM, I want this amount of fuel, this amount of timing. I can't do any of that. This is essentially what you saw is an overview. I can simply adjust overall settings. That's really it. That's where a lot of people get hung up on this unit, is that though it offers a really cool entry level thing, doesn't offer more than that. And so it's kind of like, well, who's this for? This is really for people who understand carburetors, want to get into fuel injection, and this is kind of your step forward. I like it because it was one of the easiest units to grab at the time to get into, and they were fairly inexpensive for what they were. However, the new unit doesn't have any of this stuff. It has a handheld like the Hollies do, but it's a little bit more complicated, a little bit less, if you ask me, user-friendly. But that's my opinion. Alright guys, that's my review of the MSD Atomic system. I've had it for 10 years almost, and it's been a great system. If you guys have any more questions about the system, about how I went about tuning it for this engine or for this application, or any questions you have in general about this or my channel, please let me know, and I'll see you guys next time.